You know,
I'm sorry, who are you?
Yeah, see what happens when fucking Liza gets on board here. You know, starts throwing the big dick around. You know what I mean?
Mike, I cannot tell you how upset and crushed I am that you put the wants and needs of your wife of how many years?
Shame.
How many years have you been married?
10 years.
You put your wife of 10 years, you put her wants and needs of her birthday, which is going to come around again next year, above me. I'm crushed, Mike.
Yeah, but
crushed.
here's
no, but me no buts.
No,
I don't want to hear any flim flam from you.
There's no but.
You know? Hey, is nobody going to congratulate me? Liza?
Oh, on the new house?
Yeah, you're a fucking bum. You know that?
Hey, wait a minute. You got it? You bought it.
Yeah.
You're closing.
Hey.
Hey!
I'm doing a 3D
That is,
spin.
are you in the new house?
No, I'm in my house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a Herculean task in California, dude. Good job. Good for you. You know what, Mike? I don't know if I've ever said this to you before, but like, as much shit we give you, I do recognize that you are a very well-disciplined individual. You can't do the things that you do without being very disciplined.
It's surprising, right? It's like I'm a savant or something.
No, but that's the thing. It's like you play it off like you're like this fucking guy, but you're not just a fucking guy. You're a very well-disciplined dude.
Yeah,
and I hope you recognize that of yourself, you know?
I feel like I might have like some sort of like, what do you call it? Like slight autism or like that weird shit where you're like, you know what I mean? Like low-key something, but like really good.
It's probably because you're just an asshole too, maybe, you know?
Ron, I hope you're enjoying all of this.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I already had a little chat with Ron, Miss McLovin, because I logged on about 5 minutes early, and there was a face waiting for me, and it was Ron himself. So we had a little chat about who we are.
Oh, now you know who I am.
Yeah, Ron, welcome to the Misfits.
Well, thanks, Liza.
I didn't know Ron was there. I thought this was a private conversation, but you know what?
So, Mike, you can redeem yourself right now by saying something nice about my Goldwing, and that is the only way you can redeem yourself.
It looks stock. You wouldn't even know.
Yeah, well, there you go. How about that?
There's no better compliment really than that. I mean, to be honest with you, you know what? Listen, I'm going to challenge you, and I want you to up your game because here's the Misfit challenge: is that all the bikes that you build look completely stock,
but they're not.
I have no shit. Like just like the Moto Guzzi, it's like you can roll up to it. Aside from it having a very special color, and then you may be looking around at it a little bit more. To the normal eye, anybody coming up to your bike's gonna be like, "Oh, that's a cool looking bike," and it's pink. But nobody knows the amount of work that you did in. I want to challenge you, Liza. Are you listening?
I'm listening because I think the difference between your builds and her builds is you leave all the rusty bits in between all the nice parts. And that's how you know what parts you put on. She finishes everything so you can't tell. That's why it looks stock.
My challenge is this, Liza. First of all, Liza,
let's just keep on rolling.
Listen,
has this been going on for a while?
Is to finish any fucking bike that you start, okay, Liza? And second of all, Emma, I want to see you do something like, well, I guess the pink Goldwing is pretty off the fucking wall. So, but like something that doesn't look stock.
Okay.
You think the turbo looks stock?
I don't know, something like weird and crazy, like slamming a
sports bike. Have you seen the turbo?
Okay, hey Mike. Hey Mike, go have a. Why don't you go have a birthday dinner with your wife Marie?
Why don't you?
Wish your happy birthday and come back and join us in an hour, maybe.
Oh, okay.
So we can continue the conversation.
and Mikey, darling, nobody loves you like me. Nobody.
I love you guys.
Remember that.
That's not true.
Nobody loves you like me.
That's not true.
Unless you're willing to share naked pics of your wife with Ron, so it's worth it for him to sit through this.
What? What?
I mean, 10 years later, I'll show you guys. You guys want to see her?
Oh no! Oh no!
I see him, Ron. I'm just trying to make it worthwhile.
That's private.
The podcast wants to see you in your birthday suit. That's what they said. The only way I can continue this conversation is with the titties out.
Oh
my titties out.
They
What
said
is
don't
this?
say my
What is
car's
this?
topless.
I'm not good enough anymore all of a sudden.
Birthday.
Ready? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
He says don't say my car's
Oh, okay, okay, all right.
topless.
Yo,
Oh,
who's listening right now?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Let me tell you a joke that my husband told me. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Fucking
we do have
yesterday,
a guest
right?
here. Okay.
Where he's talking about like that they figured out. Am I on the air?
no.
Okay.
You sound like my
You
Is
wanna
aunt.
this
be?
thing on?
Okay. Sorry. He's like talking about how they figure out like people with COVID, you know, something to do with the people at risk have like high blood pressure or something like that, and la 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 la. And then the next thing he says in the same sentence is like, he's like looking at himself. Are your nipples purple? And I take my shirt. I'm like, no, they're not. He's like, oh, okay, but nice tits.
Oh,
He gotcha.
I said don't say
Marie.
my car's topless. Say my titties is out.
yeah. Where's Marie? Marie,
Yeah.
happy birthday to you.
You.
Happy birthday to you.
you.
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
dear
dear Marie Muffins.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to you.
to you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
You're
All
welcome.
right.
I miss
right.
you all.
Say hi to the kid for me. Bay Frey, what's up, girl?
She's plugged into the Matrix right now.
Yeah. Neo's got her in the touches. She
Yeah.
ate the blue pill.
Oh yeah, she's down.
I hate the blue pill too. I think mine was different though.
All right. I hate to kick you off, but we do got a show to do, and we do have a guest.
All right.
We
Thanks
didn't
for
get to see your
calling me.
tits, so we got to go.
Oh, you guys got to see my garage in the new house, but I'll
Yeah.
see you guys later.
Yes, definitely.
Bye.
All
Love you,
right.
Miss.
See ya.
Bye, Marie.
Bye.
Well, there you go, Ron. This is your first Zoom conference, is it?
It is, yes.
Now you see why it's so popular during the
I
time of
guess.
COVID. Exactly. So thanks for joining us. We are recording, but this is not going to be on the show.
It bloody is.
So
You wanker! Shut up, you wanker! Bloody hell!
You fucking
Let's get on with this shit show,
Ron,
for
did you
God's
get-
sake.
did you get to meet everyone? Miss Ethel Trousers is Emma, and I am Liza. Hey. Though I see Ballbuster McLevin is left up there. That was from me crashing the Cleveland Moto podcast the other night. I had no idea who was coming
Is that
up.
the name they gave to you?
It's the name I gave to, so they didn't, Sleepy didn't
Ballbuster
know who
McLevin.
was coming in.
Yeah.
So, hey
I'm
Ron, thanks
Bagel.
for joining us. We're going to do just a quick intro, and then I'm going to go into a segue, which will then come into introducing you, and that's when you can pipe up and say hi to everyone. But
Okay.
until then, yeah, just hang tight, and you can see the magic happen.
Oh, boy.
And yeah, and we'll talk about Emma's been reading your book, and we'll talk about your past. And I'm obsessed with the SL70. I want to hear stories from that.
Oh.
Oh yeah, obsessed.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys all ready to record? Jim, you got your pants on?
Huh?
No,
Okay.
do you have
Are
your
you talking,
pants on?
are you
Pants
talking to me?
on. Do you have your
Oh,
pants
take them
on?
off. Why do you always take my pants off for this?
No.
This makes me feel awkward, Liza. We have guests this time. Do I have to
No, I said do you
start
have
hitting
them
myself
on?
again?
All right.
I do.
All right, thank you. Hey there, welcome to Motorcycles and Misfits here at the Recycle Garage in, I want to say sunny Santa Cruz, California. That might be a lie.
It's
In
Seattle.
usually sunny Santa Cruz, California. Hey everyone, this is Liza. Yeah, we had the weird rain today with the rain and the COVID and the protesters and the shark attacks, and I'm just waiting for the locusts to come up next or something. It's been weird.
They're coming.
Yeah.
I know.
We finally got rid of our vampire problem. Now we have all this.
I know. I'm actually looking forward to the murder hornets. They look kind of cool. I
I'll be
think,
sure to bring you one.
oh, do you really?
No.
I want to see one. They look cool.
If I find one, you'll be
I'm
the first
waiting
to
for
know.
the arson spiders next year.
So let's get to who is with us. Of course, it is everybody's favorite, as I found out today, because I made that mistake Emma and I were randomly calling listeners on Facebook today, just calling them up for video chats. And I'd say, who's your favorite? We're taking a poll. So it is everyone's favorite, Miss Emma.
Yes, hello, darlings. I'm every woman. It's all in me. And anything you want done, do it naturally.
Hey, don't forget about the little people when you make it. What was
Who
that?
had that sound effect?
Was that the history hole? Is your history hole whistle?
That's exactly
It was
what
a
the
queef.
history hole.
It was a queef.
All right. We'll just keep the good times rolling.
I'm sorry.
Of course. That was Naked Jim. There you go. Oh, no.
There it is again.
You've
Oh, I think we're going to
broken
get a
Emma.
story. I think
You've
we're going to get a
absolutely
story.
broken Emma.
Are you going to tell us about the beginning of disc brakes, Emma?
No, I think when you hear that noise, someone's hat has to fly off or something.
Oh my god. Okay. Keep
You
breaking
should,
every
you
time
should
do
mute
that.
me and Emma now.
He loses it. Oh my gosh. Coming to us from his garage full of Vespas, it's Bagel.
Large and in charge in my garage.
You know, we were
Man.
missing you yesterday. We were doing a project I'll talk about later. We had to keep crossing the street and there was a lot of traffic. And we said, we just need a big traffic cone right now. Where's Bagel when you need him?
Hey, I'm great at blocking.
A nice big ginger. That's all we needed. And
No, just get that giant one on Jackass and he could wear it and run around in the middle of the road.
And coming back, he's been gone for a while. He's back joining us. It's Knock.
I was gone for like one podcast.
But
Yeah, but we
these are like
missed you,
months
man.
now.
Hi, guys.
We missed you.
Hey,
Oh,
no.
thanks. Hey, thanks for
Bye,
giving
Doc.
me a call to see what was going on, you know.
Well, no,
I
wait.
appreciated that.
We had concerns that you were becoming a hermit.
Okay. Yeah.
No,
Yes.
honestly, I think it
Oh,
was
this is-
valid.
It just goes to show that you
It goes to
guys
show when you
forget about your
microdose
friends
for like 3
sometimes.
months straight.
Hey, I'm just going to say, here's a little PSA. If you have a good friend who lives alone during this shutdown and has lost their job, give them a call, check in on them. It's that simple.
Bring him some fucking soup or something.
You
Is
know,
that-
and I will add to that. If you have a friend who lives alone and has lost their job and is prone to eccentric behavior, usually manifested by wearing brightly colored child sunglasses, check on them once in a while.
That is a valid point.
Thank you.
So now we're, what is this? I should keep better track. Is this week 8?
Oh
of-
God, it's like
it's more than
day
that.
1 million. I don't know.
Day 1 million. I know.
We're nine.
You know, I think more people are getting out there riding. I didn't today because it was raining. But you know what today was a perfect day for? And this is another way for everyone who's longing for the community and riding and some sort of sense of normalcy, you know, for bikers. Sometimes just sitting down and reading a good book. Because there's a lot of really good moto-centric books. Emma, you like to read.
Yes,
Have you
darling.
been reading any good books lately?
I have. It's funny you should mention that. I have been reading a book, and it's got quite a long title, so bear with me. The book is called Shiny Side Up, Musings on the Improbable Inclination to Travel on Two Wheels. And the author is Ron Davis.
You don't say, because
I
don't
do
know.
say.
I don't know if this is a bizarre coincidence. But guess who we have with us here tonight? It's Ron Davis himself.
What?
Well, how did that happen?
What?
Hey, Ron, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So you managed to figure out the Zoom thing. This is working for you?
Yeah.
I know.
I have done something like this before, but it was
Yeah.
always through Facebook, Messenger, that kind of thing. So this is the first time I found my way in, but it was, like you said, it was very easy to access. So thanks.
Good. Yeah, well, thank you for joining us. And yeah, it is true. with all the events and rides and rallies and expos, everything's canceled. This is going to be a very hard year for us bikers because we look for community. We look for just more ways than just riding. If you think about it, really, all of us as riders, I mean, how much of being a biker is the time you spend on the saddle? There's so much more. It's
Right.
the movies, it's everything. And the books is just one of those things. So what a great opportunity to share with everyone another great book to read. So Ron, can you tell us a little bit about your book, what it's about?
Sure. About 6 years or so ago, Bill Wiegand, who was the editor of BMW Owners News, approached me and asked me if I would start writing a column for the magazine. I had written stuff for public radio and some motorcycle magazines and done a bunch of reviews and that kind of thing. And I don't know, the idea of doing something every month, coming up with a new topic to talk about with motorcycles was a little scary. But 6 years later, I had, 60 or 70 columns. And then I was approached to put those together, compile into a book. And Mike Fitterling from Road Dog Publications contacted me, and they have a whole stable of motorcycle riders. Most of them are like touring books. I went on the Road of Bones or something like that. And so this was a little bit different. And so I sent him a few of my columns and he liked it. And so that started like, a 6 or 7 month process of going back and forth and winnowing out and editing and all that kind of thing. Until finally the book came out in in August last year.
Tell me about why such a long name.
I remember I said to Mike, I said, well, how about this? And I threw out that idea, and it was just kind of a joke, and a friend of mine said, oh my God, that's a terrible name. That's a terrible title for a book. It's way too long. Nobody's going to read that. And by then, Mike had said he liked it. So we just stuck with it. The name of my column is Shiny Side Up. And so that second part probably could have been left off, but it was really just kind of just off the top of my head.
So
if I could jump in, because as the only person here aside from yourself, Ron, who's actually read the book up to this point.
That's always nice when you're being interviewed about a book and only one person has read it.
Well, I should have given it back, but it's a very interesting book, and I wanted to say that's how it actually reads. It's a bunch of short stories. In effect, there are 47 chapters, and each is a self-contained story in itself, which in certain circumstances can lead to a very disjointed book. But in this case, it actually makes it a lot more fun, because if you read it like I did as bedtime reading, it's great because you can say, I'm just going to read a chapter before I go to sleep. And in the end, you end up reading 4 or 5. But it's great fun. It's very anecdotal. It covers a lot of ground. It's very amusing. I think you get a real feeling for your sense of humor very early on in the book.
Well, thanks. It's kind of you to say that. It's funny because Peter Egan is a friend of mine, lives here in Wisconsin also. And I sent him a copy. He said almost the same thing. He said he called it one of those just one more books. Like you start reading at night, and, I'll read one more chapter. It doesn't matter if I stop here or pick it up in a week later or whatever. So.
But the advantage of a book like this is because each chapter is self-contained, you don't feel you have to, I've got to read it all in one go, otherwise I'm going to lose the plot. And it made it really, really fun book to get through. It's a great coffee table book because, you can just leave it out, you can pick it up, read it, have a couple of friends over, hey, read this chapter, it's funny as hell. And I really enjoyed it.
Well, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So I'm going to be keeping this copy, and if Liza wants to read it, she will have to bribe me with food or booze.
Uh-huh.
So I got a quick question. So
Sure.
since this is a compilation of stories, where are you finding these stories? Are these all your personal experiences?
I'd say the majority are my personal experiences, many of them quite unfortunate, but
Right.
some of them
Okay.
also are things that I have discovered through research or somebody told me about. There's one chapter in there about a guy named Val Immel who has a fascinating story about being immigrating after the Second World War to the United States. It's a long story, but anyway, there really isn't a lot about motorcycles in that particular chapter, but it's a fascinating story. And there's another one about an Italian who was caught in a huge tunnel fire between France and Italy, and saved people out of the tunnel. Again, it's kind of a long story, but it's a fascinating story, and it does involve a motorcyclist. In fact, I think it's was it March? Yeah, every year he is such a hero in Italy that motorcyclists gather at the entrance to that tunnel and make a memorial ride up and down this 6 or 7 mile tunnel to honor him. So anyway, it's just a fascinating story. It has nothing to do with me, but I found it and researched it and told the story.
No,
See,
and actually, I wanted to tell a little more of that story because I find that story to be fascinating too. And basically, it's this long tunnel. There's a fire, truck on fire, and nobody could get in and out to rescue the people who are in this tunnel except for Val on his motorcycle, right?
Yeah, well, actually, it was like a semi full of margarine,
Yeah.
and
Oh no.
a cigarette. They figure now a cigarette had get sucked in through the air intake, and he got into the middle of this. I think it's 6.5 or 7 mile tunnel, and there was smoke coming up from the bottom of his truck, and so he stopped to check it out and try to put it out. Well, that was the worst thing apparently he could have done, because then that allowed a lot more oxygen to get to the fire. And they compared his burning truck to like 6 or 7 fuel tankers starting on fire. They said the truck turned into napalm, basically, and sucked all the oxygen out of the tunnel. And this guy, his name was Tanazi. His job was just to ride back and forth on his BMW in case anybody had a problem. And he was on the French side, and started going in, putting people on the back of his motorcycle, some unconscious, and taking them out one by one. He saved like 12 people, but the last person, they had like little compartments that were supposed to be fireproof. And he took this other guy, this truck driver who had passed out, into this little compartment, and they closed it up. But it was designed for a fire of like, an hour or two. And this fire went on for 50 hours. And so they said his motorcycle literally melted right into the pavement. Well, anyways, I guess it's kind of a gruesome story.
That is a hero.
Yeah.
It's a hero story.
In fact, a couple days before it happened, he had been offered a desk job and for more pay, and turned it down because he enjoyed just riding his BMW back and forth through this tunnel so much. It's a great story.
Yeah, that is. I'm hoping that more of the stories in the book are as fascinating as that. But there is another story though that I think is fascinating, and I want to know if it's in the book. The first bike that you owned. I want to talk about it. Is it in the book?
It's in the book.
Okay. I want to talk about this. Tell everyone what your first bike was and how old you were when you got it.
I think I was about 15 and a half, and I knew absolutely nothing about motorcycles except that I thought they were cool, and maybe, girls would like me more if I had a motorcycle. And this friend of mine, Kurt, had a SL90, Sport 90, Honda, and he had. Does anybody know who Big Daddy Roth is?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Well, well, he was, he loved Big Daddy Roth, and he took this 90, he raked the front end, put like a 3-foot sissy bar on it, ape hanger handlebars, spray painted the whole thing in purple flake. And by the time he got done with this, his father, who was a doctor, said, "No, you're not riding that motorcycle. I'll give you 24 hours to get rid of it." And so he sold it to me for $50. And like I said, I didn't even know how to ride a motorcycle. And I remember taking it home. I took it home on the sidewalk, just kind of nursing it in first gear, bumping it, and finally got it home. And I think my dad actually had loaned me the money, but I think he thought I'd never get beyond the end of the driveway with it. But my friends I thought it was pretty cool, but my friends started calling it the Chopper 90. And it was, you can hardly even call it a motorcycle, especially the fact that the Kickstarter spindle would always keep shearing. And so the only way to get it started was to bump start it. And if you can imagine, running down the street with these big handlebars, dropping it into second gear, usually the first time I forgot to turn the key, or I didn't open the gas tap, or it wasn't in the right gear or something like that. So it really, 2 or 3 times usually to get started, it was not a babe magnet at all. And also, although Kurt was a great customizer, this friend of mine that I bought it from, he didn't seem to fool around much with the electrics, because the tail light was great when the bike was just sitting there, but once you started riding, it would flicker on and off. So at night when I was coming home from my girlfriend's house, I remember I always had a semi bearing down on me, and the bike was basically invisible. And so the brake light worked, I remember, so I kept tapping the brake light so people would know I was there. But it was a monstrosity. You talk about improbable, that's a good word that's in my title, because that's a very improbable motorcycle.
So Ron, I'm going to read from your book now.
Sure.
Yeah, so it says, fortunately, my top speed for the S90 hovered around 47 miles an hour. I should mention that the girlfriend lived at the end of a 2-mile-long sand road. In original incarnation, the Honda could have frolicked off-road, which is largely true. But as a pseudo-chopper, it shimmered and squirmed so much through the sand that I had to slog the entire 2 miles with both legs out to prevent putting the metal side down. That is a dedicated relationship, Ron.
It's amazing that I stuck with motorcycles after that experience, really.
Well, Ron, is it true that you rode BMWs only from that point on?
No, that's not true. I went through I went through a string of Hondas, and it was only until I was had a career that I was able to actually get a BMW.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. I noticed that the title of your book, I think, is just great, personally. But I also love the cover art. That's so cool. It's cool because it's simple and it's motorcycle, and it's like, hey, look, I can do that. I can pour oil into one end and have it come out the other. But you also, it just cracked me up. But you have a background in imagery and photography, that kind of stuff, right?
Oh yeah, I've been a writing teacher for, I don't know, at least 40, 45, 50 years. I taught high school during the school year in photography and writing, and then in the summers I taught at a university here in Wisconsin. And then I eventually got out of high school teaching and became a college writing teacher full-time for the last part of my career. But I'm retired now.
Okay, yeah, because reading your stories, you have these great images in your mind. You're a great storyteller, and you have these pictures, and you can really see see what's happening in the story, right?
Oh, thanks so much.
And I'm just curious, does the photography play into that, or do you express your photography with motorcycles at all?
Not so much, but having been a photography teacher, I can't resist writing something with trying to come up with some sort of image. Other columnists in other motorcycle magazines, usually it's just their writing, but I can't seem to just leave it there. I always like to come up with some sort of photo also. So,
But if I could say, you know, the thing I enjoyed the most about your book is something that I preach with bikes anyway. I mean, I build bikes and I build quite pretty bikes, but bikes really are completely inanimate objects until you introduce the human element to it. And all of the stories in the book are very, very human stories. It's kind of, we're going back to what you were talking about, that a couple of the stories weren't heavy on motorcycling, but that all of the stories are very, very high on the human element. And to me, motorcycling is nothing without introducing that element. And that's what I enjoyed so much about your book.
Well, thanks. You know, it's kind of a contradiction because about the only criticism I've gotten, and this was more about a column that I wrote that's in the book, is that, you know, what has this got to do with motorcycling? But since the book has come out, the main comment I seem to get is, you know, you don't even have to be a motorcyclist to enjoy this book because it's about human experiences and about human foibles and about what a dork I can be at times. It's a human story more than it is. Well, like there was a book signing party about a month ago, and they asked me to read one of the chapters. And one of my favorite chapters in the book, believe this, is about getting a colonoscopy. And
Wait,
I love that.
favorite
kind of book
chapter,
is
or
this?
are you talking about favorite experience?
No, it was not a favorite experience.
Okay, just checking.
It was my favorite chapter because I just love that story. And really, it doesn't have anything to do with motorcycling except for the fact that I write for a magazine where a lot of the readers are older and, you know, are going through that.
Well, that and your first bike was a chopper. I think those are the two things. Colonoscopy chopper. I think that's the connection.
Yeah, but it's probably the experience of that colonoscopy story is probably one that people can relate to, because what happened is I got in there into the procedure room and I'm getting all ready and they're about to put me out and everything. And this young lady in the procedure room turns to me and she goes, "Oh, Mr. Davis." And I thought, oh my God, give me the drugs now. Oh, Mr. Davis, you're my favorite teacher. Just telling the doctor about it. I can't wait to go on Facebook and tell all my friends about how I met you again. And it's like, and then the doctor chimes in and he says, "Oh yeah, and Sheila is putting her photography skills to work." And I look up and there's this 4x5 monitor above me, hanging above me, that they're all going to be watching as I get my colonoscopy. And
so I guess you could say that former student knows you inside and out, huh?
Ha 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 ha.
I was waiting for that.
Knock, you take a week off and you get unfunny, man. You can't take any more weeks off.
I was funny at one point. That's not true.
No,
Exactly.
I mean, I actually introduced motorcycling into my colonoscopy a couple of years back. They didn't actually knock me out for it, but they made me so I pretty much didn't care that I had a camera being shoved up my bottom. And, you know, they do a film of the camera going up, which looks like a motocross track. So I'm laying half baked on the gurney, looking at the screen, making motorbike noises as it accelerates down the straight and goes.
You're about to race. You're racing John Penn through the woods.
Exactly. No, it's me and Wes Cooley going through the
You and Wes
twisties.
Cooley.
I mean, that's really one way to get like an involuntary colonoscopy is when you land a dirt bike wrong.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah, the whole world sees
or a
your
jet
ass.
ski. I've heard horrible accidents.
Yeah, those things are dangerous.
We got to redirect this conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Hey, I
jet
can do
skis
that.
are instruments of the devil.
Get us out of here, Ron. You got us here.
You know, Emma, you know, mentioned these human stories, and I don't want to seem immodest, but another one of my favorite chapters in the book is talking about the experience, and I know you've all had it, where you pull into a gas station and you're putting gas in the bike or doing something, and somebody invariably will come up to you, maybe an older guy or an older woman or something, and say, and just strike up a conversation and talk about how they used to have a motorcycle
Right.
and how they had ridden out to Alaska or something like that. Wherever I go, you know, just having that hunk of steel and plastic there is sort of a bridge. And that doesn't happen in a car. You know, I
No.
can pull up my Subaru to the gas station and putting gas. Nobody comes up and talks to me. But
Hey,
with
I
a
had
motorcycle,
I had a Subaru back in 1976 during the Carter administration. You know, that doesn't really happen. But motorcycles, often it's a very nostalgic journey for men and women of a certain age because, you know, maybe she rode a bike or he rode a bike and they courted together on motorcycles. And the whole motorcycling thing has been put away for 40 or 50 years. And now they see you and you seem like a pretty approachable cat. And so they're going to come and chat to you and just relive their youth for a little while. It's the human element. And that's what really makes it for me.
So I got a question for the Misfits. This is a little game. Who can guess? So we've already established that he writes for BMW MOA, the Owners Association.
We call
Who
those
can
things.
guess? Who can guess what kind of bike he rides?
Well, I was going to say that we call those things BMWs around here.
Yeah. And Aaron, want to take a guess what he's riding?
Is it the one of the
Which
800?
BMW? Is that the question?
Well,
Yeah,
it's
which BMW is he riding?
he's
Yeah,
riding a
okay.
GS of some description.
You guys want to take a guess?
GS 800
GSA.
or the
No,
300
no.
something? What?
Yes, 310. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great bike.
Cool.
it's a great bike.
Fun.
and you know, coincidentally, you know who convinced me to get that bike when I was shopping for a new bike last summer was Jocelyn Snow.
I was,
Well, you know,
I
the
rode,
last,
I rode her bike.
yeah, the
And I think
last,
when she sold it, she had like 200 miles on
right.
it.
No, the last time Jocelyn Snow actually came to the garage, she appeared on this GS 310.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely captivated by it. It was in the martini colors.
Yeah,
And I just thought, it is a pretty little bike.
Yeah,
And
good
it's-
looking bike.
It's a nice looking
Yeah.
bike. Yeah. They I think it was Sean Thomas did
Mhm.
a comparison
Right.
between the GS 1250 and the 310.
Mhm.
And well, I know that she kind of works for BMW, but I felt like she gave a pretty honest review of it. And I've had big BMWs and small BMWs, and I was ready to try something a little bit smaller. And after reading, I edited actually her article after I read that. I sold my 700 GS and got a 310.
My question for you, Ron, how many miles have you done on yours now?
On the 310?
Yes.
About only 3 or 4,000, I think.
Yeah, but more than Jocelyn. I mean, my question is, how's it holding up? Because it's Indian built, isn't it? Or
Yes, it
made
is.
in India or Indonesia?
TVS or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's holding up well. And
There were some
Oh.
teething problems with the when it first came out. There was something with the kickstand would break off or something, and then
Right.
there was a problem with the frame. Those were corrected, and I have the 2019, and it had brakes that were built by Brembo, but they didn't use the Brembo name, and there was a problem with those, and so it was. I just got it back. In fact, it was recalled, and they put on whole new calipers on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
can't.
But that's the only problem that I've had. I never really had a problem, and I think the recall was only in the UK and the United States. But it was a problem with moisture getting in there, and then the pistons would stick in the caliper.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I find it interesting that that is your bike of choice. It's something that we talk about often. Everyone keeps trying to introduce the smaller bikes. That there should be a smaller bike market, and it never does well here in the U.S.
There's something to be said about people who started or have gotten used to riding large motorcycles. As well handling as some of them can be, getting on a physically lighter weight bike is a little bit more rewarding to a certain degree. Like you can just throw it around a little bit more and feel a little bit more part of the bike, and you kind of like it's like a more live dance partner kind of a thing, you know?
Well, I've got a surprising statistic for you. The third best selling BMW bike right now is the 310 GS. And if you combine the 310 GS with the 310R, if you combine their sales, it's their best seller.
Really?
Yeah, don't doubt it. Yep. Sounds about right.
Wow.
That's globally. That's globally.
Okay, I've got a statistic. I have a BMW statistic. Ron may know this.
Okay.
He may not know this. Liza, what was the biggest selling BMW for 1998? And it outsold all of the others by about 2 to 1.
The F650 wasn't out then, was it?
Oh, the Funduro?
Yeah.
Nope.
So if it was 98, I'm going to say K100.
Nope.
Okay.
The Cruiser.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yep.
Really?
No.
It was the best-selling BMW for 1998 by
when
a
did the
long margin.
When did the James Bond movie come out?
98.
That's it.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And you can check the figures. It is the wildest thing. But that was the best-selling BMW for 1998.
Was it? Did it like the sales immediately just taper off after that?
Well, you know,
Maybe
it was
like an
kind of
anomaly?
it was kind of a flash in the pan, that bike.
Yeah,
You know,
still.
I seem to remember that they were everywhere, and suddenly they went. You know, the styling didn't hold up well.
The bars are weird. I don't like the bars.
But there are still riders who, love them.
Oh.
And I know a lot of BMW riders, obviously, and I got to tell you, BMW riders tend to be a little snobbish. You ever notice that?
You don't say.
But it's not just towards Harleys. It's like, oh, I've got a GS 1250. How can you ride that baby 310? They're snobbish to each other. But and not everybody, but I've just noticed that in the community.
I maintain that Cruiser is the best sidecar tug ever made.
Oh, yeah, that's probably. And just so you know, I am a snobby Africa Twin rider.
Yes, you are. You are an insufferable Africa Twin rider. Like your cohort Jim Stark. When the pair of you get together. Yeah, honestly, you two are insufferable.
But Locke was right, man. The smaller bikes are more fun. I was up in the mountains today, and it was all wet and mucky and slippery. And I was like, thank God I'm not on the big bike. I was on the
you took the rally raid, didn't you?
Yeah. I would have totally eaten shit on the big bike. I no doubt. But the little bikes are super fun. I bet, Ron, when you get on the dirt or in the woods, I bet you're going, they can't keep up with you at all.
Oh, no. I was just talking to, I don't know if you've ever heard of SRC Moto. They're up in Oregon.
Mm-mm.
And I've bought stuff from them before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, the founder, Scott Hart, and his wife, I think her name is Lisa.
Stephanie. Oh, I was going to say it's Jonathan and Stephanie, heart to heart or something.
That's his mistress. You just
Anyway, they used to be Moto. They have a company called Moto Stuff, and now they've branched out into this new company called SRC Moto, and they're exclusively marketing stuff for small adventure bikes, like the 310, KTMs.
I'm going to show you some parts right now on my Honda that I bought from them, actually.
Oh,
I can walk outside.
Joy.
Oh, joy.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's that. So that's the counter shaft cover.
Oh, yeah, cover.
Anyway, and then this is billet till. You can see chain guard.
Bling, bling.
All right. You can see, I can't tell. Anyway, yeah, they were super cool. Like, great company. Anyway, sorry.
Well, if I can make a plug for them, I just put on some crash bars on the 310 from them, and they are the beefiest, the best quality crash bars I've ever installed. They have good stuff.
And their customer service was great. They had overcharged me shipping a few bucks. I didn't notice, because shipping's always different. It's always too expensive. And I got a note from 2 days later. Hey, we overcharged a couple of bucks on shipping. Refund you the stuff. Thanks very much. So yeah. Great company.
They must be doing okay because they just moved into a new building. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now it's a $50 minimum order because they're so busy. Well, part of the COVID, I think that's the thing.
So I wanted to cover some stuff real quick. Where can people find your book?
Everywhere online. Amazon, all the booksellers have it right now.
Okay, and again, it's Ron Davis, Shiny Side Up, Musings on the Improbable
Inclination to travel on two wheels.
There it is.
There's the cover.
Now, are you
Buy
still?
his book.
Are you
Buy
still?
his book.
Are you still writing your column as well?
I am, but after six plus years, it's harder and harder to find topics that other people have not written about yet. If you're a fan of motorcycle magazines, the few that still are around, like I am, I know that other columnists are in the same fix. After a while, there's only so much you can say. If you're going to talk about human experiences, the well is getting more shallow.
So I got a question for you. How is having to publish in this day and age of like digital press, and has that changed? Because I'd imagine you've done stuff before all this too, right?
Right. Yeah. It's really different. For instance, with Road Dog Publications, they go to like a massive printing outfit that prints a certain number, but now they've got everything on file. So when they start getting down to a certain number, they can, in a matter of 2 weeks, they can print out a whole new stock. So it's and the editing, instead of running galley proofs back and forth, everything being digital, it was a long process, but it makes it a lot easier too.
Yeah,
there are a couple typos in there, I think, that finally got through us both, but between all the going back and forth, it came out pretty clean, I think.
And I'm going to help you out here. If you're ever looking for a topic, shoot me a call. Give me a call. We've managed to have over 350 hours of recordings talking about motorcycles. And I used to think, oh, well, it's going to be harder and harder to find something to talk about, but I just keep meeting more and more people and finding more and more things to talk about.
And
well,
that's one of the things that attracts me and keeps me involved in motorcycling. I didn't mean to say there was nothing left to experience or nothing left to learn, because really the thing that I like about motorcycling is I feel like the more I learn, the more I want to know, the more I realize I don't know yet. It's a lot like I'm a fly fisher too. It's the same thing. You could spend 2 lifetimes becoming a fly fisher.
And dare I say it without trying to sound like a broken record, when you introduce the human element into anything, there are endless stories. Over the years, we've become quite a popular podcast. And the reason for that, I truly believe, is everyone's striving for perfection. We're a bunch of idiots. We make mistakes and we embrace the mistakes we make. We do some amazing things. We've built some amazing bikes. We talk to amazing people. But at the heart of it all, we're a bunch of boneheads. And I think that really resonates with people, because
number one,
we're not, we are number one boneheads. And that really resonates with people, because, the conversation we were having before the microphones were turned on, Ron, you said, wow, all this really lofty company that's come before me, and how's little old me going to fit into it? Well, we all fit into it, because it's all part of the human story.
And watching that interview you did with Jocelyn, the best stuff in there is when she's telling these stories about the personalities of the people that she was on the BDR with, you know,
Right.
and it wasn't about, you know, how I negotiated this curve or anything technical. It was these human stories that made it so interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
The best part of that BDR film is when she's trash talking. When Jocelyn Snow trash talking, it makes the whole film for me. So, you know, it's how things are. We all want to be perfect, but we're all far from it. We're all deeply flawed human beings, and all the better for it.
Just like motorcycling, sometimes the journey is as important as the destination, right?
So
You
say
get that in a-
Confucius.
Yeah, and a cookie. Hey, Ron, I was wondering if you would do us a favor. Before we let you go, I need your help with something.
Okay.
So every week, we like to give away an Evel Knievel stunt cycle.
Heck yeah.
And it's time to give one away. But before we do, I want to remind everyone, hey, we had a winner last week. Actually, no, last week's, we're about to give the answer and we're about to pick a winner. So the question was, how many buses did Evel Knievel jump at Wembley Stadium? And the answer, Miss Emma, do you remember?
Yes, I do. And I was just saying Wembley Stadium comes between Tubley Stadium and Thurbley Stadium. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
Oh my God.
So,
Down the street from the stadium.
what? Mumbly Stadium.
Down
That's
from
the
Mumbly.
very first one.
Oh
Thank you,
my.
Jim. Yeah, that fell flat. And I think it's very, very pertinent that that Evel didn't make the jump because it was a very unlucky number. 13.
There it is.
13 single-decker buses.
So, Ron, we had 14 people send in the correct answer, and they are entered to win this Evel Knievel stunt cycle. I just need you to pick a number between 1 and 14, and that will be this week's winner.
Okay. I'll say 9.
Number 9. The
Number
winner
9.
this
Number
week,
9.
congratulations, Chip Bishop.
Hey, well done, Chip.
Hey. Awesome.
Make sure you, yeah.
Do you
best
think
play ever.
it's chocolate chip or minted chocolate chip?
Oh, I hope it's mint.
Or Tubley Chip.
Tube.
So congratulations, Chip. You are the winner. I still have more to give away, so let's say we give another one away this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, though. The questions are going to get harder. So I'm going to give the question. If any of you Misfits or Ron know the answer, please don't say it out loud. But
What is the square of the hypotenuse?
I'm guessing that you won't know the answer. So again, I'm making it a little bit harder. So one of the most famous jumps, probably the singular most famous jump that Evel Knievel did, was the one in Las Vegas over Caesar's Fountain, which he famously did not land. Well, he didn't stick the landing. Let's just say he crashed. You know, he puts his life at risk for these events, and this is one that he had made a deal with Caesars, and he had a contract to do 3 jumps on 3 different dates. And the question is, how much was the contract for? How much was he being paid to do these 3 jumps at Caesar's Palace?
Ooh, that's a very esoteric question.
It is. I know, but the answer is out there. I found it. And it's
He was not paid enough, I'll tell you that.
yeah, on that one,
pain
his
and morphine.
his femur was snapped in half and thrust up into his pelvis.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, I think he was like a foot shorter.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
thanks for that image.
Mhm.
Liza.
I know. And he said he never lost consciousness on that jump.
Oh man, that's
Good
even
Lord.
worse.
Yeah, I know. Ugh. But that's why he always walked with a cane, that famous cane. So there you go. If you know the answer to this question, go ahead and email us at recyclemotorcyclegarage@gmail.com. And if you have the correct answer, you will be entered to win our next week's contest for the Evel Knievel stunt cycle. So Ron Davis, was Evel Knievel a big deal for you growing up?
No.
What?
I don't know.
Oh, them's fighting words
Ah,
for Liza
dude.
on, you know. I
Dude.
gotta,
Peter
This
Fonda was.
podcast's going in the garbage. I can tell already.
Yeah, Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper were.
Oh, there you go. All right, that more than makes it work.
That'll work.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, Ron, I wanted to thank you for coming on and sharing. And did you want to do any last plugs before we let you go?
Well, I didn't mention that not only is the book available online through all kinds of e-tailers, but you can also just go to Road Dog Publications at roaddogpub.com, and there are lots of motorcycle books there that people might also be interested in. And also Aerostitch has picked it up, and they have it in their library too. And there are a bunch of good books at Aerostitch also on motorcycles.
So Ron, because we are legitimate journalists and get free stuff in the mail, I didn't pay for your book. So for mere mortals who are listening to this, what are they going to actually pay for this?
I think it's everywhere. I think it's $19.99.
That is a lot of reading for $20.
Oh, glad
that
you
is
feel
a
that way.
lot of reading for $20. So yeah, it's actually really good value. So
We bring you value for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, buy Ron's book.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And do let us know if you have any other great books or stories or anything you want to share in the future. Reach out to me. We'd love to have you on again.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
having you
Ron.
on the show, Ron.
You're on.
Thanks,
Thank
mate.
you.
Nice meeting all you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Come visit.
And yeah, you should have a leave meeting button. That's all you
Got
need
it.
to hit
Got
that.
it.
All right,
Okay.
cool.
So long.
Bye.
Be
That's
safe.
all.
You guys, we got some more people joining us.
What?
What?
Harley and
Who's
Mycah.
Hey! What's up,
Hey.
yo?
We
Oh.
aren't narcs.
You are. You guys, Mycah told me a funny story about when they were in Hawaii, something that happened there.
Yeah, we ran into a listener in Hawaii. We were at a friend's wedding, and they were talking about motorcycles, and we were like, "Oh, hey, we're doing that in Santa Cruz," and talked about the podcast a little bit.
Nice.
Yep, that was very cool. It was great to meet him. I don't remember his name, but he was telling us about all the dirt he does in Hawaii on the Big Island.
Nice.
Yep.
No, I think that was a different person.
Thank you, Charlie. Good story, Charlie. So, hey, the garage has been open, and even though it was raining, it was a bit slow, there's still things getting done. And actually, it's been a great opportunity for Charlie, who did.
Also, things not getting done.
No, you got something done, and it's one of those yay moments that happened today. You want to tell everyone what you finally completed after how long?
Well, the engine didn't blow up, so there's that. The motorcycle runs.
Yeah, so he's again good story, Charlie. So Charlie has is it YZ250?
Yes, it's a 2000.
YZF? SNF?
2001 YZ250F.
Surely you mean a YZ250?
No, I mean a YZ250 because it's a
a-
Japanese bike and it's not a British bike.
It's a YZ250 with
Okay.
lots of valves, lots of them.
Yeah, there's 5.
And you took it apart and did an engine rebuild.
That wasn't
then-
planned.
And then COVID happened, and
All I wanted to do was replace the top, was just do valves and put some rings on there, and all of a sudden something went down the engine, and then the whole thing came out.
it all fell apart. So
Moral of the story: use a rag when you're putting the circlip on for your piston. Yeah.
That's what it was. It was a circlip. Oh man!
You hear all the sounds of it going down in. You know where I found it? It was in the transmission.
Wow. Oh shit! Okay, wow, it made it to the transmission. Okay.
And some people were like, "You could probably run it. It's probably fine." And like, yeah, it's probably fine, but
until it breaks a gear.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would like to give a little bit of a Misfits top tip at this point in the proceedings, because Charley built the engine and did an absolutely stellar job of it, aside from dropping the circlip down. I actually did the cylinder head work on that bike for him. And like many bikes, competition bikes of that period, it came with titanium valves. Now, when it's time to rebuild a head, the idea of titanium valves is the valves wear and the cylinder head doesn't. So you just replace the valves. A lot of people choose to replace the titanium valves with stainless steel ones, not least because they're about a third of the price. However, here is your top tip. You must never replace titanium valves with stainless steel ones without changing the valve springs as well to the correct weighted valve springs for stainless valves, because the valves weigh more, so they need a firmer spring.
And I mean, that bike, you know, Yamaha built that bike as a race bike to win races in, you know, factory competitions or whatever.
Right, and last 2 races.
I got a question regarding that. So, like, does the aggressiveness of the cams at all, like, make a difference in terms of, like, how fast it opens the valves? Or is that a factor to worry, too?
No, because a valve can't open faster than the lobe of the cam.
Right,
It's
okay.
it's a purely economic thing.
Okay.
It's a part that's moving up and down really fast and has weight and mass to it. If you make that part lighter, it's going to perform better.
Well, it's going to perform better at the absolute top of the range, because the enemy of every valve on the face of the planet is valve float.
Yeah,
and valve float is when it starts overtaking the cam. And theoretically, the more the valve weighs, the earlier it's going to encounter valve float. Well, we can overcome that with firmer springs.
Right.
So in real terms, you're not going to feel it. You might gain like half a horsepower or 1 horsepower on 40 horsepower with titanium valves. Well, that's enough to win a race. But on a 20-year-old dirt bike that even a talented rider like Charley is tazzing around on, if you want to lose a horsepower and put in long-lasting stainless valves, that's a good bet.
Furthermore, the type of riding I'm doing, I'm not like racing MX and pinning it the entire time. I'm doing more technical goaty stuff where you just like go up a step or something, you know?
It's a trail bike, right? You're really just a regular old,
I have never seen you ride a bike, Charley, and not pin it. So don't give me that noise.
Yeah.
Hey, for any of our long-time listeners, we got a little treat for you. We got another Misfit who just joined us. It's Douglas.
God. Hello, Misfits.
Hey, Doug.
What's up, bitch?
How's it going? It's like I just saw you guys earlier.
I know.
I don't know what you're
I know. We're still so excited to see each other on Zoom, and we were all together in the garage an hour ago.
Yeah, right.
We could technically start a company now with this many people on a conference call, right? Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, I mean, you've gotten your check, right?
I want to raise.
Oh, Jimbo. Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up, dog?
How's it going?
No, but
good. I rode some dirt today.
Nice.
There was a great moment, Charley, today after, you spent all that time rebuilding an engine. You hook up the gas and you get on there and you start kicking it, and is it going to start? And it's like where everyone's standing around watching,
Yeah.
And
it
it's just
like 3 kicks.
Yeah.
And then
the first kick, I did it without a choke just to see if it would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, I knew it wasn't going to. But, yeah, the thing runs great. It starts pretty much first kick. Probably could use some adjustment and, like, little tuning or whatever. Maybe – and, like, the gas is old, too. Like, the gas is probably, a few months old now.
Well, you got to run some heat cycles and break it in and then do the valves again.
And, like, so the valves need to get broken in. I mean, I don't know if valves do need to get broken in, but I'm just saying that. But the valves need to get broken in. The rings need to get broken in. The whole thing needs to, like, seat together or whatever.
Yeah, any new part in any engine needs to break in and then get adjusted.
Yeah, so, like, it'll probably run better and, like, start a little easier after I get a, ride in or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good feeling. It's one that Jim has yet to experience.
I was actually
for
just,
sure the
I was
bike wasn't
just
gonna run.
watching.
I got nothing. I got nothing there.
I was just watching the YouTube Motorcycles and Misfits video where Jim had the XL broken down.
All
And
right.
talking about that snap bolt. I don't know. Did you ever get that thing running, Jim?
Yeah, it was awesome. That was actually that was the first thing I ever took apart. That was an 83 XL
Mhm.
XR350.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
XR350.
and,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was great. It was running kind of crappy, low compression, I think. So yeah, took it apart. You know, it took weeks, broke things, put it back together, took it apart. Yeah, after like 3 months, it ran exactly the same as it did before. I consider that a victory in my book. That was like a resounding. I sold it for like $200 to fucking Gary.
Yeah, but what a
Yeah.
perfect bike to tear into
yeah.
and to go ahead and break bolts and
It-
do
I
all the
mean-
things.
That's
A
why you
comfort
have
bike
the
bike.
realization, like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to work on bikes ever again. Kind of a thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Every day.
That was even an air cooled bike too. So
Yeah.
Now, I'll
Yeah,
tell
but
you, this project I did was supposed to be like a couple weekends.
And it's going to be a couple weekends more because even though you seem to be a good engine builder, you're not a good parts purchaser.
Well, there's a whole story behind that, and I was gonna wait until I got back down here on Sunday to double check the tire sizes, and then a certain somebody assured me that this was the correct tire size to buy, and it
Okay,
wasn't.
when you say a certain somebody, it sounds like it's me. It wasn't me. I swear to God.
We already know you're not allowed to buy
It was Antonio. Antonio fucked me. I told him, I was like, I don't know, I think I'm just gonna wait until Sunday to figure this out and just double check everything. And he's like, no man, this is what I run on all my motorcycles. And he's fucking wrong.
Wait a minute. So, am I right to assume that he told you to buy an 18-inch rear wheel and you got a 19-inch on it?
No, he said to buy a 19. And
No. So it's an MX bike. MX bikes run a 19-inch wheel because it's lighter and it works better for MX. But we ride this bike on the trail. So he had said that he replaced the wheel for an 18-inch wheel. So I bought a tire for an 18-inch wheel, but it actually has a 19-inch wheel on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going off what the factory specs are, you can't at that point, and I knew the factory spec was a 19-inch wheel, and that's what I was going to buy or double check or whatever. But he had said he swapped the wheel out, so I then trusted him and whatever.
So, are you going to administer the punishments to him?
Yeah, well, I already called him. He didn't pick up. So.
Okay, I'm sure he's going to listen to this at some stage. So,
no,
have at it, Charlie.
Yeah, we'll
don't hold back.
Well, and I've got a couple choices. I could go and buy an 18-inch wheel, and it would actually be probably better for the type of riding I do, because I don't ride MX, I ride trail, and that little bit of extra cush in the rear would actually probably benefit me, because the actual outside diameter of the tire doesn't really change.
It's very similar. It's just you've got a higher side wall.
Yeah, so like that itself would probably really benefit me, but it's, do I want to now go find a wheel and whatever, so now I have to deal with returning this tire, or so there's this whole deal I've got to deal with.
Well, Charlie, if you want to buy a rim and spoke kit from Buchanan's, I will show you how to lace it up and true it.
You know what's harder than rebuilding an engine, Charlie?
Lacing a fucking wheel.
Yeah. It's the next step. If you want the next challenge,
gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Do you know how much one would cost?
$100, right? It's pretty cheap, I'd imagine. No,
spokes will be about like 100, 125 maybe.
Yeah, usually
get stainless.
Yes, nice set of stainless spokes are about 120. I mean, the spendy bit's the rim, but an XL rim's a couple of hundred. So you're gonna be into about $300.
Yeah.
But then you got to do it yourself. Well, if you can find one, Oh,
Charlie, you know what you could do?
I could cut my wheel down.
I was going to say, you can just get better at making ill-fitting parts fit together like Emma does. just like she did on her Goldwing.
Hey, I'm
that we
telling you,
talked
I'm not
about.
stretching that tire to fit.
No, what you could do, Charlie, is you've got to sit down and do the math. You know, the circumference is pi d. So get your wheel rim and then figure out, cut a slice out of it, like you're cutting a slice out of a pizza.
Well, you're going to have to do
And-
multiple slices because you can't just cut it and bring it back because now you're going to have an oval.
No, it'll be fine.
And
Just
I'm gonna,
cut
then
it like a
bring out
pizza
the
and then just
welder.
bring it together and just put a bit of tape on it.
Just buy a taller tire.
Yeah, and then stick the tire on. The tire will hold it together. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, just get a really
it's
tough
not a
rim
tube
band.
in there, so you don't need to rely on the pressure.
Yeah, the tube will hold it together and the
Yeah.
rim band. You know, it'll be
And the
fine.
tape, and the tape will help.
All right, so then when I'm on the side of like a trail, like 10 miles up, pushing
Yeah,
my
just
bike
call me.
back uphill to the campsite, I'll be
We'll come
thinking
get you.
this moment.
Yeah, just call Emma, and she would really appreciate it if you had your video on at the time.
I can't believe you did it.
So sorry, we got away from the.
So yeah, I wanted to talk a minute. We talked, was it a week or two ago? We talked about Emma's Goldwing, and now pictures are appearing. It's kind of like when there's a new Harley or new BMW, and pictures get leaked when someone's out on a test ride. Well, the picture of the Goldwing has been leaked. It's been on the. I just put it onto our Facebook page today, and it's been on our Instagram.
That's
The
not
ground-
leak.
Yeah,
It's,
it kind of
it's a
blew
full-on
up on
photo shoot,
Instagram.
man.
I've got a question for Emma about the Goldwing.
Okay,
Yeah.
shoot.
What's the optimum weight of ice to use?
The optimum weight of ice.
Yes.
Oh, the coolant. You know, the ice you put in the radiator.
No, the ice you put around the airbox.
Oh, for the intercooling.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just there's a little tray sitting on top of the plenum chamber, and it's just for packing ice on it.
You use dry ice.
No, I use ice out of it's only for making a quick run on it. So you just get ice out of your refrigerator and just stick it in the tray.
True. Well, the tank, there's not a lot in the tank anyway, so.
Yeah, exactly. But no, you just stick it on there because, I mean, the thing is you got to get that intake temperature down. You got to get it down as much as you can.
So when you go to get gas, you get another 3-pound bag of ice and you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. And you just.
Well, then you actually design a hopper or whatever, so it'll spiral in new ice as you go.
Yes.
Oh, I had a hopper
An
once.
ice-
Like
an
his
ice
name.
tank.
No, I had a hopper, and I called him Dennis.
So hey Emma, I was watching the stuff on Instagram blow up with old Tubbo the Turbo, and
Yes.
people had questions. So a couple of questions, if you don't mind. And I think did somebody fall?
I think that was knocked.
Was it?
Fell
Did
down the stairs.
Knock? Did you fall down and can't get up?
Yes.
Oh God!
I'll get right over.
Knock. Do we need to call anyone?
Are you doing your valves right now?
Me to know, you to find out.
Yeah, put in those different springs.
No, I think he's going to the toilet.
Last time
Now my
I
phone fell
dropped
down.
it.
Oh, you're back! Oh no, we were
Alright.
worried about you. There was this big crash, and the screen went black. We thought you'd fallen into the bowl.
So what
Animals
questions?
just hit. That's why.
What I want to know what questions there were about her bike, her build.
So a couple to start with. You may have mentioned this before, but what's the turbo off of?
The turbo is off Subaru WRX.
And does the owner of that car know it's missing?
No,
He does now.
it's exactly.
Okay, and then-
He's pondering why his car got very slow very quickly. No,
So another question. I'm sorry.
it
Go
was a
ahead.
friend, and he rolled the car.
Right.
And, he pulled the turbo out really as a memory for himself, but he got tired of looking at it. So he said, oh, Emma, just take this turbo because I know you'll do something stupid with it. And I did.
You know what the joke is with Subaru guys, right?
No.
It's I don't always, brrr, but when I do, I.
That sounds like me after I've been eating Indian food, darling.
Yeah. What's up? That's what's up.
So some of the other questions were, did you ever think about doing something with the giant gas tank and the seat?
Yeah,
Well, mostly the giant gas tank.
You see, and so what we'll do, And I was hoping Mike could be on here as well, because I wanted, a lot of owners get very, very defensive of their builds as a lioness protects her young. And I'm not like that. I actually enjoy people critiquing the bikes because it shows that they're thinking about it. What me and Mike have very much in common is the things we build defy description. And there's been a trend over the last 10, 15 years to build these things, you know, cafe racers. And there's very much a formula to build it. You know, you use a gas tank off a CB750F for a CX500 and a brat seat, and you've got to wrap your exhaust pipes, take the fenders off, put balloon tires on it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. And you can make a very, very nice looking bike. And because it's a widely accepted and admired platform, you're going to get a bike that really appeals to a lot of people. Turbo was built for one person, me. And if you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, that's great too. There's not everybody who's going to be into a pink turbocharged Goldwing. You know, the actual build in itself, the build in itself is very singular.
Let me read the comment, Emma, because you'll appreciate this, because the two gas tanks you named were the two that he had suggested in his post. So, Emma, you're a genius, and I love your segments on the podcast. This is Johnny Erder. He must be a pirate. But I don't know about that gas tank. Maybe a 750F or a CX500 would round it out better.
Right.
And potentially black out around the radiator, not to draw attention to it.
Right.
I told him to eat a dick, but that's all right. I did not. I did not.
But you see, Johnny makes a very, very valid point that if you're building a formulaic build, radiators are bad, so you want to draw attention away from them. I'm quite happy having a giant fucking radiator on the front of my bike. And it just so happens that an original feature of the first Goldwing, because they weren't sure how much cooling the radiator was going to get, they put these giant friggin' scoops either side of it and color matched them to the bike. So I did the same. Liza, you have your hand up.
I do. I actually have a question. You know, we haven't talked a lot about turbos. There have been turbo bikes in the past.
Yes.
And I've yet to ride one. I would like you to describe what it feels like riding a bike with a turbo.
So, it's a very, very interesting experience riding or driving anything with a turbo, because most trucks and buses on the road are turbocharged. Most diesels on the road are turbocharged. And then you get into the bikes and you get into the cars like the Subarus. What a turbocharger does is it changes the intake vacuum into pressure. So your engine doesn't suck fuel in, it has fuel pushed into it. And it's a very, very easy way of getting more horsepower. When you actually ride anything with a turbo, there are two things you have to keep your eye on. The first is your revs, and the second is the amount of input you're putting, basically how far open the throttle is. You all know you can be riding down the street at 5,000 RPM with just a whiff of throttle. On the other side of the coin, you can be riding down the street at 5,000 RPM with the throttle wide. And this is going to have a drastic effect of the characteristics of the turbo. The turbo is driven from the exhaust. So the more push you give it, so basically the more you open the throttle, the higher the exhaust pulse is, the more the turbo is going to push. So it kind of builds on itself. The closest I can describe it to is as most everyone's ridden a two-stroke. And even the little two-strokes have a very defined power band. You ride them, and then suddenly at a predetermined RPM, all the power comes in and you take off like a scalded cat. This is a very similar experience to a turbo. the modifications you have to make to an engine to make it successfully turbocharged actually take away from performance. So until the turbo's actually producing pressure, it's quite dead. It's quite wooden feeling. It doesn't feel like a 1000cc bike. It feels like a 500cc bike. You've got no power at all. But then the turbo spools up and you get this really big shove in the back of your pants and off you go. It's like the rush you get with a two-stroke bike, except more so. I'm still getting the carburation right. I mean, I would famously admit it took me 18 months to get the fuel injection right on the Moto Guzzi. I don't expect turbo to take that long, but it's going to take some sorting to get the carburation right.
So yeah, I was curious because even though I've not ridden one, I've heard people describe, you know, on the like the CX650 turbo, or is was it the FJR?
Well, there's
I mean, there's a few, right?
Yeah, there were four major players in the turbo field. Some were more successful than others, but the CXs and the GPZs were really the best of the bunch.
And they describe it as it just comes on all of a sudden, and there's like a punch, and then there's a slight delay for winding down.
Right, and that's called the lag, and you can mitigate that.
And that it was not a bike that was successful because that was kind of like a surprise power punch, you know,
right,
and hard to control. So I'm curious, since this is a modern turbo from a modern car, does it still act like that, or is this a little more refined?
To a certain extent, yes. I mean, I built this bike really as a tribute to my friend's dead Subaru, and you know, as a barroom bet amongst friends. Oh, Doug's got a cat.
Yeah, it's my kitty.
Oh, what a beautiful cat.
Yeah, it's Bacon Pancakes.
Has Bacon Pancakes got a bit missing out of his ear, or is it just a camera?
Yeah,
Oh,
they do that. They do that when they trap and release.
Oh, he's such a handsome boy.
Yeah, he is. He's a goober.
Meow meow, Bacon Pancakes. Meow meow. So the turbo actually is far too big for the bike. If I was starting from scratch and actually building something that I wanted to ride on a daily basis, I'd put a turbo on that's about half the size. It's a big turbo. And with a big turbo comes big problems. You get a lot of turbo lag and you get a lot of time to spool up. So you whack the throttle open and you wait 1, 2, 3, off you go. And then when you shut down, mine's better because we've got these things called blow-off valves now. So when you shut the throttle and you close off the air intake into the engine, even though the turbo's still spinning and going go, 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 instead of the air kind of backing up, now there's a little valve that opens and makes that diarrhea noise you did so well, Knock. Like to do that noise again for me? Blow-off valve. So that's basically, and the blow-off valves weren't around in the 80s when these turbo bikes came out. Hence you got this terrible lag. And the way they got round that in later years on cars until blow-off valve technology improved, rather than have one big turbo, often they'd have two small ones. Or when they started getting really technical, they'd have one small and one big turbo. So the small one would be very responsive. It'd spool up and down really quickly. And then when you had a long straight stretch of road and you just buried your foot, then the big one would spool up and off you'd go.
These were attached in line, right? They compounded them? Is that
yes.
what it was?
Yeah, they compounded them. Bike turbo technology never got that far. We were stuck with really just 4 bikes right around the beginning of the 80s, and they're just marvelous period pieces. I have to be honest with you, the worst of the lot was the prettiest, which was the Suzuki XN85, which is an absolutely gorgeous bike. But in terms of turbocharging, it was the least successful. It was the closest to stock performance for a 650, really.
So Emma?
Yes.
Now that I know somebody with a turbo, will I have an opportunity to experience a turbo motorcycle?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, as with anything, I'd like to get the bugs out of it. I try and let you ride everything that I have access to. You've yet to ride the Guzzi, actually, which I think you'd enjoy very much. Haley Bell loved that thing.
The Guzzi is a beautiful bike, but riding a turbo, that's something on the checklist. And that's something I'm going to add to the Real Biker Quiz, because I think we need to put another one together, because there's some stuff to add to it. Like, have you ridden a turbo motorcycle?
Right.
That's a small number of people.
It's a very visceral experience. There's a lot of noises going on. There's a lot of strange noises going on. I mean, everybody knows the spool up noise of the turbo, but the wastegates are blowing off, the pressure relief valves blowing off. It's quite an experience. At the moment, it's a bit raw and ready. My original concept, I wanted to debut it at the Quail, which of course didn't happen.
Right. That was supposed to be this weekend.
Right. So I kind of rushed it through and I pushed it through, did the little photo session at work so people could get a taste of it. Over the course of the remains of the summer, if I'm not too busy, I'll get the bugs out of it. But I mean, as with all of my stuff, it's something to ride and enjoy. And as soon as I get it where I'm not embarrassed by it, you can ride it. But you'll have to make sure, because it will want to suck your left leg into the turbo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta sign a waiver.
Oh, Mycah's got a cat as well.
Yes.
It's a cat cask.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got Josie here too. Hey, hey guys, we got a listener question this week. I want to get to, but before we do, I just wanted to give a little heads up. So Emma, Jim, and I have been working on a little project lately.
Yeah, we did, and it was we had a lot of fun yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, we've been working on shooting the videos for the new YouTube channel, and we spent a few hours yesterday at a great location that we're going to go return to, because I would say yesterday was a lesson learning day.
Yes. Yeah, how hard can it be making a video? How hard can it be?
I learned that cheap Chinese camcorder I bought actually isn't 4K like they said it was.
No way.
God.
4K.
Well, you know, I think
you don't need 4K anyways. You don't need 4K.
Yeah. I actually do, because the problem is I have my DSLR camera as the second camera. And so the reason we're not able to use a video is editing between the camcorder and the DSLR. The difference in video is so big, and it changes color and everything. So it's it's distracting to do.
Are you taking stills with the? Are you taking stills of the DSLR, or are you doing video with it?
Video with it.
So why are you just using video with that one? Doesn't have in mic input?
Because we're doing a 2-camera.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So does everybody remember where Liza found me all those years ago?
That would be the Jameson motorcycle.
Behind the dumpster?
Yes, I was giving HJs behind the dumpster.
In the dumpster.
No, it's actually called Hange.
Is it a Hange? I have no idea of the proper technology.
Old fashioned. It's old fashioned.
Yeah, we basically took a walk down memory lane.
We did indeed. We went
felt
back to
good.
the Jameson Classic Motorcycle Museum, and it's gotten a little bigger in my absence, but it was great being back, and it felt very much like home. And we talked about a couple of bikes in there, and we actually did a history hole on a particular bike.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make it clear that with everything I build, I always try and include some nod to the previous incarnation of that actual bike. If you look at my turbo build, it's got these big intakes on the side of the radiator that everybody takes off. Well, that's number one. But the second is I encourage you to look at the rear shocks. And it's got some old Stuart Warner gas shocks from the 1970s on it that everybody put on these heavyweight touring bikes because you can adjust the pressure in them. And they're really 70s, they're completely touring. but it's part of the bike's history, and I wanted to include it in my build. So we did a history hole on an Norton I built for Jameson, and we talked about that bike's actual history from the day it was sold right up until the present day, which was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, so there you go. So got a couple of emails. Let's get to this first one. This is kind of cool. This is from Cody and Mariah.
Hey, Cody and Mariah.
And Mariah.
She says, my name is Mariah. My boyfriend's name is Cody. We ride a Yamaha FZ07 together, and we were planning a weekend trip to Santa Cruz and hopefully to meet the crew. But the pandemic curbed our plans until it's over. Wah, wah. We watch all your videos, and Cody listens to the podcast while he is working. You guys are fucking cool, and all of you have inspired me to learn how to ride. That's awesome. Definitely caught the itch just riding on the back of the bike, leaning into turns and pulling some double up wheelies. Whoa.
Nice.
Hopefully we can meet you guys next year sometime whenever all this craziness is over. Emma's Army, thanks for being such an awesome person. You are my favorite. P.S. Fuck knock.
Wow. You see, and I'm going to share some information. So back in the 60s and 70s, the police in England used to have these vans, and if you were behaving badly, they'd round you up and chuck you in the back of the van and take you out to jail. And
paddy wagon?
I never got to ride in the back of one, but they were black and they were called Black Mariahs.
I was wondering where we're going with that one.
Yeah.
No, but that's what they were known as. And all of the English friends who are listening to this right now of a certain age would say, "Oh, God, yeah, I remember the Black Mariahs. Yeah, I got collared and thrown in the back of the one and got taken down the old Nick, eh?"
I'd be curious what Mariah's first bike's going to be, so she'll have to let us know what she ends up.
Looking forward to seeing them.
I hope you guys can come visit. I would love to meet your FZ07. I mean, I would love to meet you guys.
I know that's a favorite of yours, Mycah.
Yeah, Mariah.
It's a great bike, that FZ07. I'll tell you what.
I hope that
agreed.
I hope that Mycah is an inspiration for you. Somebody who did get off the back of the bike and is now a full-fledged biker, all in, doing your own work on it today. Even pulled out some power tools.
Yeah, I was surprised there.
And hopefully you can even become a biker like Jim, who now is so crazy for riding. He went out today in the rain on a 4-hour ride.
Well, it wasn't raining when I left.
If you're lucky, you'll get to accidentally rebuild an engine, just like me.
Yeah.
I've had that luck. I have dropped stuff down the camshaft thing there.
And I was concerned for you because you went out riding on the CRF 250 with the dirt tires on it. And I'm kind of sketched. And a lot of people say they're great in the dirt. Don't ride in the rain on them.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty good up until you told me that. I was like, really stoked to get to ride. And then you're like, well, what bike you take? And I'm like, the little bike? And she's, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, what about the tires? I'm like, what about the tires? But I've ridden that bike and those tires plenty in the rain all over the place. So I wasn't worried. So I run like Charley.
I think it kind of really just depends on the tire, because I feel like a lot of it's the tire compound.
Yeah, I think most of it probably depends on the tire. But like you, I run those Moto Zs and Tractionator ITs, and but they were 25 pounds. But yeah, it wasn't raining that bad. I went down the PCH and it was okay, and then I started climbing up into the mountains, and it got wetter and wetter. And then by the time I got to the top, which is whatever, about 1,800 feet, it was like what do they call it? Driving rain. It was like driving fog.
Yeah.
It was like that. Me and Liza have been up there, and you guys probably all have experienced it. But yeah, it's
super heavy fog. Yeah.
And it stings. I mean, it's blowing sideways, and you have to have your visor open because you can't see shit. And it actually stings your face. That's how hard. But it was foggy drizzle. But it was a hoot. I like being out in the weather, and it was a nice dual sport ride. Yeah, I was gone for like 4 hours, and a whole variety of riding, everything from freeway on the PCH. It's whatever. But then it was just more beat up, more beat up roads the further you go. Oh yeah, no worries. And Doug, I know you've been up in this area, and and then you just get off onto these basically fire roads, but it was just stupid beautiful, and I enjoy riding in the rain. And the mud, it really varied the riding up too. Instead of just being hard packed dirt, it was all sorts of crazy stuff from that to the worst was when you come up on basically it was like asphalt with 1.5 inches of mud snot on top of it, and you just pin it, look up, and keep going. But it was beautiful. I mean, Doug, you've been up there.
Yeah. I was gonna say though, try running about 20 pounds in the rear, particularly. When I put the dirt tires, the DOTs on the XR, and I'm driving on the street, I've experimented. That's every bike is different, but I got the best results with the right about 20-21 pounds. And then
interesting. So a little bit less.
A little bit less, and you're gonna feel a little less squirrely.
Oh, I'll definitely try that.
Or in the rain?
In the rain and the street.
Oh, I have one question though. While we're talking, when you're on knobbies in the rain and you're in the twisties, do you put your weight on the outside or the inside of the peg? Outside peg or inside peg?
On the outside.
On knobbies?
Outside.
That's what I was doing. It felt right. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you go slower.
Yeah, that was number one.
Yeah, the idea is that the idea is you're riding at a pace where you weight the pegs doesn't really matter too much. Just take it easy, man.
Well, like if you're putting your weight on the inside of the bike, you're gonna be able to keep the bike more upright, so you don't need the traction. Versus you put the weight on the outside, you gain more traction, but you're leaning more.
Right. So it's just like on the dirt, but it was great. It's just like our own little BDR. There's so many fun dirt roads and backcountry roads, and I got to see like all the kale growing and Shard, all the organic farms, strawberry farms, crazy stuff. But it's beautiful up in there. But then you can only see like 50 feet in front of you. That's
right. But Jim, the weather can move very, very quickly. I remember when my brother came out to visit me, he was amazed how quickly the fog can move in around here. I mean, it rips. One moment it can be clear, and then it just comes in at like 1 billion miles an hour.
Yeah, like when I was riding in Scotland, it was just like that. Kind of like all of a sudden, here comes this crazy wind, thick fog you can barely see, and you're super wet. But like I said, it was fun. It was nice to get out and ride. I haven't been doing much riding, and and the dual sport stuff's great. So yeah,
hardcore biker shit. I hope that's the kind of inspiration that Mariah is getting from us.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, all right, I got another question, and this one is from Mike in Slow, as we call it, San Luis. San Luis Obispo.
The abyss of San Luis.
Yeah, the abyss of San Luis. And so he has a 2009 Sportster.
Go Mustangs!
It's the XL883 low model. He says, I'm coming in at about 260 pounds and the stock suspension sucks.
Yes.
Every time I hit a bump in the road, I feel like a lightning bolt shoots up my spine.
Yes.
I got the tool to adjust the rear shocks, but still no
Won't work.
It's been like this ever since I bought it with 400 miles on it. And now it's got 43,000 miles on it.
Okay,
so that's about 28,000 kicks in the ass from a mule. He says you can't lean this into corners without dragging the kickstand or the bottom pipe.
Right.
That's why he's not a fan of the low model. He'd like to upgrade the suspension and also lift the rear a bit. What do you recommend to do this? Is it just a new set of shocks or is there more involved? Thanks for your advice. And if I'm not making sense, it's because he's had a few libations already. And don't fuck Knock. Knock, you seem pretty cool. Never mind. Fuck Knock. I gotcha.
Adam, hold for a second.
You're going to put a Gixxer front end on that bitch, and then you're going to put an R6 shock, and then you're going to replace the rest of the motorcycle with a sport bike. And then it's going to handle
my suggestion is, if you're willing to spend the money, go see a professional, because they will recommend you, a better damping as well as maybe different shocks.
Well, just hang on there. The big problem that we encounter is there are very few professional suspension places that really want to get massively involved in Harleys. If you're talking sport bikes, you want to talk about valving for an R6. So, and that's exactly what I'm going to say. So my suggestion to Mike, the very first thing you've got to do is measure what you've got right now. So get a tape measure and measure from the center of the bolt at the top of the shock to the center of the bolt at the bottom of the shock. That's called eye to eye. And that's going to give you a base measurement. And I'm guessing on yours, that's going to be about 11 inches.
Now, is this going to be the shock on the bike or off the bike? Because it's going to vary with the
Probably
weight.
on.
Oh, believe me, those shocks aren't going to move
They're rigid.
a jota on that bike.
They're only got about an inch of shock in them.
But
Yeah.
I know like a lot of people, like if you just raise the back end up alone on those will handle much better.
Right, exactly. And so the thing is, the way modern Harleys are set up, they're set up that if you go too high on them, the belt can encroach the rear master cylinder.
Yeah.
So, but that only applies if you go to really a conventional long shock. My dear friend Mike McCarthy, he's really turned his Sportster into a flat tracker. He's done chain conversion on everything. But one of the trickiest modifications he had to do, he went so high in the back. He's got 13.5-inch long O-lins on the back of his. So he had to do all these modifications to the master cylinder because the chain was smacking into it. If Mike only goes to like 12.5 inches, I don't think he's going to have a problem. He's going to get the back of his bike up. And you mentioned the magic word. Progressive do a great line of shocks specifically for Harleys. They look good on Harleys, they bolt straight on, and the best part is all the guys at Progressive have done all the calculations for you. So all you've got to do is you call up your Progressive rep and you say, hey man, I've got this, I weigh this, what's going to be the best shock for me? And you're going to end up, and it's going to be a bolt-on. The downside is that they ain't cheap. I mean, it's a $500 shock. It's not Olin's expensive, but it's not like going down to the shop and buying a couple of Munros for your Ford Taurus. Motorbike shocks are expensive.
Well, I mean, that's what I kind of mentioned seeing a suspension tuner because they can do stuff which might be cheaper than the Progressive stuff. I mean, they're just multiple
I doubt
options.
it because the shocks that low comes with out of the factory are just garbage. He's going to have to just bin them because there's no movement in them. In order to get that bike so low, because the low was specifically designed for entry-level riders. So they wanted to make it as low as possible. And in order to do that, they literally slammed it on the ground. It's practically on its stops before you even hit a bump. You might as well ride a rigid. He's probably getting more flex through the sidewalls of the rear tire than he is through his shocks.
Maybe get a sport bike.
It's a very low bike. I don't know. I think there's a lot of value in Sportsters. I like them. But, the Sportster's changed. Anyone who says, I'm not sure whether I like Sportsters, should go back to look at what a Sportster was before the late 70s. If you Google like a mid-70s Sportster, and I've always been a huge advocate of AMF Harleys. I know they're terrible bikes, but God, they're handsome. Harley have not made a bike as good looking as the AMF Harleys for a long time.
Yes, Liza.
So I wanted to make two suggestions
yes.
that maybe you haven't considered, Mike. So the first one, do you guys remember when we did that, the Oakland Motorcycle Club, the 300-mile thing?
Sheet iron?
The sheet iron. Remember the dude with the Harley Sportster that had dirt bike suspension on it?
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was a fully custom bike. We actually met that guy who built it at the
I know. Yeah. That bike was cool. That's what I'm saying. Throw a dirt bike front end on, some big shocks. Take that thing off road, some knobbies. I'm just saying. That's one way.
Or buy a dirt bike.
Or the other suggestion I was going to make, it's quite a bit of money to buy these progressive shocks, and if you're going to have a shock put it on, you might as well just buy a KLR.
The front end, you can also put some cartridge emulators, and that's going to help you out a lot, and those aren't too expensive.
Yeah, Liza, that's a terrible suggestion. I'm sure Mike likes his Harley. So yeah, Mike, just kick down, get some decent progressive shocks, do what Charlie says, put some progressive springs in the front, probably some emulators. It's actually going to turn into a nice riding bike.
Because the
He
front
deserves
is
it.
probably
After
up
40,000
front,
miles, he deserves
One at a
it.
time.
As far
Okay,
as
go ahead, Don.
the peg scraping and the side stand scraping,
Yeah.
just lean your ass off the seat some more.
I was going to say, it's probably been a while since I've told this story, but years ago I was riding a Harley Sportster with forward controls, and I was riding up north, north of San Francisco, where you're coming down the hill to a army base to go check out that beach with all the glass on it. I forget the name of it. Anyway, I'm just bombing down the hill, and I got my friend behind me on like a fat boy, and I wasn't paying attention. I didn't see the speed bumps at the bottom of the hill, so you didn't.
Oh,
And
man.
I hit that speed bump, and the front suspension kind of took it, but the rear suspension, there was none. And I had forward control, so I had nothing underneath. And it was like getting kicked in the ass by a horse. And it shot me up in the air, up over the handlebars. My head was going towards the tire, and I was holding on like upside down with my hands and got my legs hooked on the bars and managed to pull myself back on while doing like 60 miles an hour.
Right.
Holy shit.
I almost kissed the tire. That was fucking scary, man.
Yeah.
But you've summed up, to me, the problem. The words Sportster and forward controls should never be in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Over the years, the Sportster's become a shrunken cruiser, and it's what it never was.
Right.
The Sportster's a standard bike. It was born as a standard, and the best ones look standard. They're high in the front, they're high in the back, and they just sit right. And at some stage, right around the late 70s, Harley decided, well, we're going to make this into a cruiser, kind of a shrunken version of our big twin cruisers. And it's not the bike for it.
And they're just aesthetics over performance, basically.
Right, exactly. But if you see a Sportster in its original form, they're crushingly handsome bikes.
Oh, it was supposed to compete with like the Triumphs, the British bikes.
Right. It was always the Sportster and the Bonneville.
Mm-hmm.
And they were competing against one another.
Were they competing in flat track?
Oh, yeah. And on the street and everything. And they were competing in looks. I mean, it's... I'm not going to admit it publicly, but an original Sportster and a Triumph are as handsome as one another.
Yeah. So
I will admit I did come close this past week. I was bored and I kept looking on Facebook Marketplace, and I was looking at a couple of Sportsters. Because I do.
Yeah.
You can take one of those older Sportsters and put like a solo saddle on there and make it look like a bike from the 60s. I love it.
Yeah,
They're great looking bikes, and you can do a lot with them. They're,
Exactly.
Except go over speed bumps.
Yeah,
except go over speed bumps. But I think if we go back to Mike's question, you don't have to go bananas, Mike. You've got nothing right now. So even adding an inch and a half, you're not going to have to do any great modifications to the bike, and it's really going to help you out a great deal.
Yeah, and aside from the comfort factor going up, it's actually for me, when I do suspension stuff, it's about safety.
Oh, yeah.
So like what Liza was saying, like she was nearly punted off her bike because there was no suspension travel, or if it was stiff or whatever,
That's exactly what happened to Cat P too.
Yep.
Right.
And regardless of what you do, it's probably time to rebuild your suspension anyway. So if you decide not to upgrade and you want to keep everything how it is, you should still either rebuild it yourself or get someone else to rebuild it and just change the fluids out.
Right.
And just one tip, when you're changing out the shocks, do one at a time.
Yep.
Some people learn that lesson the hard way.
Well, unfortunately, if you're changing the length of the shocks, you're not going to have
Oh
that
yeah, you're
option.
right. You're
He's going
right.
to have to support the belly of the bike. And
So
get
you
one
got to
of
have a
those-
jack to jack it up.
one of those flat jacks that go
Yeah.
underneath. The good thing about Harleys is they're mostly flat underneath, so you can kind of slide the jack underneath and, you know, jack it up, get the wheels off the ground.
You can also use just jack stands on the frame.
I mean, you can, but I tell you what, those like what I call the pallet jacks, they're cheap as chips. You can get them for like 90, 100 bucks, and they work so well on Harleys. They're great.
Yeah, you want to have better control so you can get the holes aligned perfectly to put the bolt in the shocks. Hey guys, I got an announcement. I've been working on the new website, motorcyclesandmisfits.com website.
Have you really?
Yeah, if you haven't checked it out, go there. I created on the About page kind of a gallery. All y'all are on it. I'll just say that. Just so people can kind of see.
I didn't sign a
all the
release.
Misfits.
I signed no release.
You got to pay me to
No,
use
Doc,
this
I
page.
signed it for you.
I think that means we're getting paid, Doug. You
Not,
have my address, right?
I will say I didn't use your best picture, but I didn't use your worst.
Perfect. Lower to average expectations is what gets me places.
Everybody's looking at their phone now. It was like, wait, what?
Exactly. Hey, another cool feature I was able to do on there, all of our archived episodes, I was able to create playlists on SoundCloud by the year. So every episode we've ever done, going back to 2014, I think that was the first year.
2013, actually.
Is it 2013? Oh, God, it's been a long time. Yeah, so you can go by year, click on each of those boxes, and there's all the episodes each year that we did. So,
Oh, Bosley's on there.
And Bosley's on there.
All
of
the
course.
good play.
Yeah, so go check out motorcyclesandmisfits.com. And you can always reach out to us at recyclemotorcyclegarage@gmail.com. But you can also use the contact page on there that works. Another nice little feature I did on the home page, the last 5 episodes will always be there. So there's an easy link to find our most recent episodes on the front page, and it keeps repopulating every week, so that's pretty cool too.
That's
Oh, that's
fancy.
neat.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't see the pictures. Where are the pictures?
In the About link.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
There
I
we
did
go.
three categories. The first one is the Misfits, the second one is the garage, and then the third one is the podcast.
Of course, you would be on. Of course, you would be on a scooter with your fucking Evel Knievel outfit.
Of course, I would.
Is it top and bottom?
No, keep looking for the picture of you in the diaper.
Oh, there's one in the, yeah.
Made you look. So yeah, go to motorcyclesandmisfits.com, take a look, and yeah, there's a lot of fun pics there. Anything else going on with you guys? Anything coming up?
Yeah, man. Same old
Staying on,
shit.
being safe. Something is happening in Jim's space right now. I'm not sure.
You just
You like that?
Spontaneously
Just
combusted.
He's turning on the lights for
All
his
right,
meth lab, I
bitch.
think.
Wait. Oh, Jesus. There are fireballs. Oh my God.
Oh, dude, there's photos of Mason in here.
Dude, we gotta save that for our next oh yeah, Mason's in. You gotta save it for our next Evel Knievel video.
Oh yeah, I got plenty of flammables.
Fireballs!
Do you have enough Evel Knievels? That's the question.
Yeah, I keep giving them away. I think the only way to top our last video, I think we got to use fireballs and white snake. Do you think we can get the band here?
Oh,
I think so.
Yeah. Oh. So, hey, this is a time to thank everybody for listening, and thank you to our Patreon supporters. I still have a few shirts left, and when I say a few, there's not many. Large and extra large only.
What is going on right now?
I think we're losing Bagel.
Back together.
Bagel, we're losing you. So yeah, just a few. Knock, you didn't pick up a medium. It is gone. They're all sold. Large
Yeah.
and extra large. If you want one, you got to come
All
and get it, son.
Well, all right, all right.
I apologize, but I have more people trying to buy sizes than I
No,
have shirts.
that's fine. As long as I want more people to wear their shirts. Shit, I'll draw that shit on my chest if I have to. Whatever. Man.
Right. So the way to
I
get a
accept that,
shirt is it's simple. You can PayPal me $25 if you're here in the United States, and give your address and tell me if you want a large or an extra large. $25 gets the shirt shipped to you. If you're outside of the United States, send me an email at recyclemotorcyclegarage@gmail.com with the country you're in. I'll give you a quote. I got to go ship a shirt to Germany tonight.
Yo, son,
Very
there's
good. We love our German listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a photo of us with Norman Reedus and a dildo and a giant dildo. It's fucking great.
A photo where it isn't photoshopped out.
No, this
No,
one
not
isn't.
this
This
one.
is the original.
This is the editor. This is the director's cut.
Yeah, on AMC they photoshopped the dildos out.
The director's uncut, you mean?
Yeah, the
Oh,
director's
nice
uncut.
one. There you go. That's a good
Nice.
one.
There you go. So, hey guys, that's another episode. Hey, and Doug, I'm glad you got to join us.
Yeah, it was fun.
Mycah, good seeing you guys too.
Totally.
It's like getting the band back together.
I think that's what Bagel was trying to say.
Band, man.
Ah, nice. All right, so hopefully next week it won't be so rainy and we can actually get more work done. Find something to work on. I don't know. I keep going to Craigslist and typing in project. It's a bad idea, but I feel like I need one right now.
Well, I'm gonna bring the XR650L down next week.
Yeah,
cool.
I want to see that thing, dude.
Liza, if you want some project, some.
Yeah,
you
you're
wanna,
cutting out. But I
mine.
think I got your message. Or Jim, maybe you should bring your project down here and put it on the lift, and we can keep working on it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd love to, because I think if I brought it down to the garage, I bet we can make some pretty good headway. You know
There
what
you
I mean?
go. I bet you
So,
we can
yeah,
get a
maybe-
couple more hands in on it.
Well, maybe we can end up with a rolling chassis potentially by the end of the day.
All right, cool. And that's right. We last week we used Bagel's cool tool.
Oh yeah,
and
thank
got
you.
the
Babe. That thing was bitching.
got the race seated, and the front end now fits. So yeah, thanks.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because the race, it was tight. That thing jammed it in there. Of course, then what did we break off? Oh, the steering stop.
The steering stop, but it was the lower triple running in the steering stop. I said, if there's anything on this bike that you are going to break, the steering stop is the thing to do, because you can easily weld it back on, which we had to do.
I said grind it, but no. Someone wanted to heat it up and bend it with pliers.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I'm welding.
Yeah, well, I needed a project. Hey, everyone, I think we're ready to get out of here. Thanks again for listening. This is Liza.
Emma, darling.
Bagel.
Douglas.
This is Knock.
Charley.
Knock.
Mycah.
Who are you pointing at?
Jim, did you know?
I don't know who she's pointing at. I only see
I
one of you
figured
guys.
Charley
at a
would
time.
go after Mycah. It seemed
Everyone's
pretty
placed
logical.
differently on everyone else's computers.
All right,
Whatever.
we are out of here.
Go, go.
Oh.
Peace.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I'm like, I wonder how many times I can do it before Liza just hates it.
Oh, there were
I
times
wish,
I'm
like,
like,
I
where was it? Where was it? That was the perfect time for the whistle.
I wish that
it's easy-
noise
it's an
would
easy
just
thing to
like-
overdo.
I wish that noise would just happen when like you make a mistake, like you drop like a cookie on the ground. Like
There's a- I've been playing with it all day. I found it like, where did this come from? I don't even know where it came from. It's a little
Oh.
addictive.
So you found something, you stuck it in your mouth. Okay. Good plan.
I've been
Okay,
trying
on
to
that
do the
note-
strange brew theme.
On that note, I think I'm in the meeting. Thanks, guys.
Exactly, thank
I'll see
you.
you guys
Bye.
next week.
All right,
Later.
ciao, ciao.
Bye. Adios.
doing this? Are we leaving?
Leaving.